So I'm going to touch on that a little bit because I feel it's related, and there's a lot of people who feel that the Maimonidean tradition, or like people who talk about Rambam, there's an elitist kind of attitude, and like this, it's like a Rambam supremacy kind of thing. How do you react to that, and what do you think? What do you think we can do to kind of change that perception in people's minds?
I think this is a very, very important point. Again, all your points have been very, very important. Yes, there's definitely this understanding of like this elitism, and you even see in Harambam's writings where he says that even the majority of the people of his time understood Agadot literally, and they take Chazal's word literally, and they do a disservice to Chazal. So even in Harambam's time, there was this issue with the majority versus what one's supposed to do. I think it's a conceptual thing, not necessarily a thing out of choice. What do I mean by conceptual thing? It so happens to be that the more you research something, the closer you are to understanding it properly and knowing, I don't like saying truth, but kind of getting to the core. But you need to study more, and you need to study the right things more. And for the majority, that necessarily isn't something feasible, especially when you're in survive mode. So Ramchal, in his unknown introduction to Mesilat Yesharim, the dialogue version, Rabbi Dr. gave a shiur on this as well. He says there are certain things the majority cannot do. And we just see it with a healthy diet, for example. The majority do not keep a healthy diet. The minority do. Is that elitism? You could say it's elitism, but it's just a reality. It's a conceptual reality in human society. Is everybody a high-flying intellectual? Is everybody a PhD? Is everybody the kindest person in the world? Is everybody as kind? No, you have these things where people who put more effort into one certain thing, they specialize, they become that. So instead of saying elitist, I would say more specialist. So that's one thing. So you can have, there will always be that distinction between the masses and then kind of like this specialist era, or not era, specialist corner of the population. That will always have, is a conceptual thing. But the hope is, and Hacham Ben Amozeg writes about this in Humanity in Israel, that society as a whole goes towards that increasing knowledge kind of evolution. So even the minority are evolving their understanding. They will still be behind the elite of the time or the specialist of the time, but they as a majority will be continually evolving to know more and understand more and contextualize more and be more knowledgeable. So it's not either or. You will always have people who are specialists, who are more elitist, or whatever you want to call them, and you will always have the majority who aren't. But the hope is that in every generation, that minority or that majority become a little bit more sophisticated and a little bit more understanding of the knowledge of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which again is everything we're doing, this podcast, my books, the Habura, every mitzvah that we're doing. People have to keep remembering the core obligation for every Jew, doesn't matter if you're a man, woman, whatever you are, is to know God. The hope is that majority in every generation increases. And that's what all the Hachamim, thank God we come from such an incredible chain of tradition, both in the Ashkenazi and the Sephardi approaches, where the goal, I hope, is that Hachamim leave a fertile ground for the evolution, of the majority, so that every generation becomes greater than the other. And I think the elitist claim or the elitist tag is a little bit unsophisticated if you see it in the context of the evolution of humanity as a whole.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for doing this.
This was absolutely, we have to do this again. Yeah, we got to do this again.
It's an honor to be here. I appreciate it. It's so important that we have, like-minded discussions and people getting together. It's fantastic. And I'm honored to be part of the podcast. And please God, many, many